episode number 6 of Bitchin' Millennials. We have a very special guest today, Audrey. Yay!
Here I am.
If I was more technologically advanced, I'd put in like clapping, you know?
Oh, we can.
There we go, yeah, just pretend.
Well, just
and I'll
under the
cut to
table.
something else.
Yes.
Yeah, make it look like I did that. So today's topic in the news and pretty much everywhere, I feel like I see contradictory things about us millennials and our sex lives.
True.
There's articles that are like, oh, just like we kill everything else, we're killing marriage, we're killing sex, we're killing all these things. But then you'll turn around and see like, oh, all these millennials using crazy apps just to hook up. What's the meaning of life anymore?
I don't know. But
Well, that's what's a little
I'm
deep.
here to talk to you about it.
Okay, yay. We don't have to get into the meaning of life, but we'll start off a little better.
Excellent.
So, I think one thing I want to hit on is that our generation, I feel like a lot more people use, like, birth control.
Mm-hmm.
So, there might be a little bit of truth to the fact, like, at least I know when I was on the pill, sex was not the top thing I was worried about.
No.
And you are a nurse, so you can kind of speak probably to...
Well, I mean, birth control in general, I think, is it's a thing that we're kind of expected to be on.
True.
I think men in general are kind of like, when are you going to get on the pill? Because condoms suck, which they do. But they do definitely affect our sex drive. And I think that especially when you're on it for a long time, you may not ever know what your sex drive is. I went on birth control way later in life and ended up going off of it because it kind of made me a crazy person. So I kind of can see where things kind of went weird because it was directly related to when I started taking the pill. But when people start taking it younger, you know, they come into their sexuality on it. So
Yes.
there's just kind of that in with that.
That is
with the
very
birth
true.
control.
I did the same thing, so I didn't go on any kind of birth control until I was a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I know plenty of people who were like 14 and a lot of times it wasn't even about having sex. It was to help control their cycle and things
Right.
like that. But yeah, like they just didn't know themselves in
Right.
that way. And then all of a sudden you go off and it's like, kind of
Right.
like, whoa, what's going on
Totally,
here? But
totally.
I know when I went off, it's almost like a fog kind of
Mm-hmm.
lifted. You're just under this weird fog, and I had no idea, really.
Yeah.
Even,
I mean, it's not something we're really like talking about. It's not like young girls are like, hey, this is your cycle. This is important.
I know. Well, and that's the craziest thing is, like, half the things that were happening while you're on the pill, like with your hormones, and it's like no one really tells you exactly what's going on.
Right.
At least back when I went on it.
I mean, I was homeschooled. My mom didn't tell me shit. Can we swear on this?
Yeah,
Oh,
we can do
perfect.
whatever
Okay.
we want. Whatever the fuck we want. But,
Perfect.
but yeah, I think that's just an important thing, like, and I don't know, because I don't know any, like, high schoolers or middle schoolers right now, but I don't
Right.
know if that topic is breached better, or, like, if they are more informative now or not, and it's just so, like, important.
I want to hope so, but I think so long as, like, we're in this whole, like, abstinence-only kind of, like, model, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's, like, my own soapbox I can hop up on and talk to. Maybe on another podcast.
Yeah, we'll do
Another
just for
episode.
that. We'll have you come back.
Uh-huh.
But, yeah, so hopefully, I know, like, when in high school, our high school was okay. It wasn't just abstinence, at least not that I remember.
No.
But it was still is not, like,
Yeah.
literally tells you, or even when I went to the freaking doctor. Like, they just kind of be like, oh, this seems like a good one. Here you go. And
Well, and so my experiences, I kind of have, as I called them earlier, like pussy problems, where it's like I was going on a bunch of different birth controls and having all these different things and reacting poorly to them. And I felt like I would go back to the doctor and I'd be like, hey, this one's not working. And for a while they were like, oh, well, that's not the birth control. That's the problem. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure it is. Mm-hmm. And they'd put me on another one and the same thing would happen. They put me on another one. And then I went for 5 years without being on birth control. And I feel like I was really good. I knew my cycle. I knew, like, how that worked. I knew when I was going to be, like, a little bit more emotional, like, when I could make better decisions, like, all these things about my cycle that I learned about myself. But every time I went to the gynecologist, she was like, so what birth control are we going to put you on? And I was like, no, like, I'm not going to do that. And it's like, I hope it's not the pharmaceutical company, but I think that they just have this model that this is what's best, this is what prevents pregnancy, this is what solves these problems, and so it's just really easy to be like, here, well, this is what we do, so do that.
Just take this
as
leap.
opposed to talking about, like the whole cycle and
I
all
feel
those
like,
different parts of it.
especially as an adult, if you go to your doctor, you'd think they'd be like, oh wow, you can track your own cycles, and like you think they'd be like, nice job, or like that's pretty good, but I mean, it's probably a little bit of...
I'm hoping the next generation of, OBGYNs is going to be different. I think that we are much more aware of that now than we were, back during, when all the baby boomers became providers.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have faith that it'll get better. I think we're moving towards that, but I think also there's a bunch of people in our generation that are just kind of like, I don't know. That's not, you don't think about it. You don't think about your cycle at all until you're trying to get pregnant.
Right,
like,
and then you're trying to cram and learn as much as you
right,
can.
and you're like, how did I not know this? I've had a vagina my entire life. I've been having a period for the last 15 years, and I had no idea.
Yeah, like the fact that you don't ovulate when you're on the pill, and it's like a fake period, and it's just like, it was when I went off the pill, and I was like, what? This whole time that's been happening?
It's
like,
crazy.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think
there's that.
Hopefully, that, like you said, if you have faith in it, I have faith, if you have faith, that it will change.
I mean, I'm also in Seattle, so things are moving a little bit more quickly out there, and I'm surrounding myself with a lot of people who have the same beliefs as me. So I think it's, you kind of get in a sounding board, but I'm in the medical field. The women that I talk to about this in the medical field are also kind of on the same page.
Yeah.
So I hope that kind of continues in that direction.
Well, and I think probably, too, just in the past maybe 25 years, has been more women coming into the medical field.
For sure.
So that'll probably definitely help.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, yay, future. Something to look forward to for
I
the
know,
future.
if we make it that far.
Yeah, well, we can do it. So, let's look at the flip side a little bit.
Okay.
So our generation, there's all these crazy, like, dating apps and stuff, and it's no longer just our generation, because there is the younger Gen Z generation that are coming to that age as well, but I definitely know people who were or still are on, like, Tinder and Bumble and all these things, and first of all, I just want to say, I'm glad that I never did any of that, because some of the stories I hear are just, like, out of control.
I did it, I did it for, like, 2 months recently.
Okay.
Like, kill me. Like just wrap me up in a tarp and throw me off. Like, it was... Like, I did meet a couple of people that were kind of cool, but it's just, like, it's unbearable. You get berated. It's, like, you have all these talks online, and then you might meet, and then it's such a weird concept. There's so many people out there. You're just swiping. You're like, I've only met shit people. Did I swipe the wrong one? Like, it's a whole thing but I never even... I mean, that started. I was in a relationship. And so it's kind of like a weird place to be right now.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you could probably speak a little more to this than I can, because I'm married, but, like, I hated dating anyways.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I can't imagine, especially now, like, this next generation coming up, too, like, that seems like that's a main way of, like...
I mean, it's the only way they know.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's my friends that are dating now are not really, like, just chilling. Like, if they're looking to be in a relationship, they are actively using the dating apps. But they can remember a time before that. But that's what they're doing. So there's people coming that are growing up that, like, that's the only way. They're like, why would I do it any other way? Because this is what we're doing. It just sounds exhausting and just...
Well, I feel like even for me, if I was a parent watching my kid, even as an adult, like, in their 20s doing that, I'd be like, what are you doing? So I wonder if, like, parents are just, like, I feel like it goes this way anyways, where they're like, oh, this generation's ridiculous. But, like, I wonder what their thought process is. I feel like if I saw my kid literally just, like, doing that and just, like, meeting people all the time, or, like...
Well, can we just stop really fast and talk about how our parents never told us to put our name and our picture on the internet, much less our current location?
That is so true.
Like, our entire childhood, they're like, don't do that, stranger danger. And now we're meeting strangers with the intention of, like, having a relationship or at least relations.
Yeah.
Like, our parents must be out of their goddamn minds about it. Like, they're like, did you not listen to me at all?
Yeah, this is the exact opposite of what I always told you.
This is exactly what I told you not to do.
Someone made a joke about that with Uber. They're like, we just have these random strangers pick us up and we just get in their cars.
Just get in their car.
All right, don't know you. I'm assuming you're taking me to my destination.
But yeah, again, another podcast. Because that story goes dark sometimes,
oh, gosh.
Oh, like, the internet. The internet is a crazy, crazy
Luckily,
place.
I'm crazy, though. Like, my one friend, we took an Uber somewhere, and something had just happened in the area where someone had been attempted kidnapping, something like that, and she's like, I don't know what I'd do. I'd just, like, probably cry. I'm like, no, here's the plan. Especially if there's someone else in the car. You grab him from behind and choke him out, and you duck down so that you choke him out. But if he gets in an accident, I'm going through this whole scenario, and she's just staring at me like...
See, I think that's the difference between you and me and, like, literally everyone else, though, because we're like, listen, this is what's going to happen.
The plan.
Get yourself together.
Yeah,
we're going to do this.
You got to be ready for things like that.
People are like, I don't know. Yeah. I'm like... You do know.
Like, unless you literally have a gun to your head, like, I'm choking this guy out, or doing, like, take the wheel and get into a minor car accident, and it's all good. It's fine.
What it is, it's fine.
Life advice for everyone out there, just, especially ladies, if you're going by yourself.
Yeah, okay, let's just stop that really fast. Yeah, if you're dating and you're going to meet someone.
Yes.
Like, telling people where you're going, like, public places. Like, sometimes I'm just like, what are people thinking? Yeah. And that's, like, an interesting standard, too, for women. That is not really the case for men. But, yeah, that was, like, a big thing when I was doing that, is, like, making sure someone knows my current location, like, sharing my location with a friend, which, like, kind of adds, like, another level to dating that,
It just makes it a little bit more scary, I guess.
I agree.
Yeah, and in, like, a different way, too. Not like, oh, I'm nervous to meet this new person. It's like, okay, well, hopefully I don't get murdered today.
Yeah,
like,
hopefully today's the day that, But, it's just the whole thing with the internet. It adds a level of complexity that, previous generations did not have to think about.
Exactly. And I mentioned on my last podcast, actually, how my mom's generation did have a version with the CB radio.
Mm-hmm.
And
True.
My mom was like, they'd just go meet random people off this radio. And it's like, what? Like, that's so ridiculous.
Leela, that's not safe.
Yeah, but they'd always meet in public places, she said.
Oh,
but I always wonder, like, okay, she probably had a close call or something, and that's why, like, our parents' generation were like, oh, make sure, like...
Well, I mean, the whole 80s was stranger danger, so, I mean, I feel like that kind of set us up for failure.
Yeah.
We were never going to go anywhere alone.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I can't imagine... I don't know. I just feel lucky that I didn't have to, like...
I mean, yeah, I also have been to a number of weddings recently where they met on dating apps.
That is true, too. I do know some people who met on Tinder and got married.
They met, they had, like, a really awesome, like, relationship early on. They just got married. Like, it's beautiful. God bless them. Like, some people do really meet people there.
Yeah.
I think it's just really hard. And my friend at the time, I was living with her when she started dating this person, and she, like, devoted herself to going on a date a week, and she was, like, meeting a ton of people. And I think that, like, if you are looking for something, like, it is a good way to kind of meet a lot of people and see what you're looking for and really narrow down your options, which I think is good.
Right, because like you were saying earlier, like, I feel like the old school way of, like, meeting people, it gets harder.
Right.
People,
especially as we get older.
Yeah,
like, we're not hanging out in bars anymore. Like, we're
not constantly with other people.
Right, we have full-time jobs, like, careers. Like, it is harder, I think, when you get older. Oh.
But yeah.
Podcast mogul. Come on.
Clearly. But yeah, so that's very true. It's just... like everything changes with time, with new generations.
Right. And it's just a whole different ballgame.
But like you were saying, so there's this half of our millennials getting into the younger generation that are using the dating apps, whether it's good or bad, but either way, they're using those, finding people. But then I feel like we still know so many people who are, old school, kind of like me, where you get engaged, get married, and live in marital bliss at your mom's house.
Bliss at Leela's. Yeah. It's interesting because that is definitely, living in Seattle, that is something that is happening to my friends back home. Like, I don't really have friends, and maybe it's a city thing, friends that are really in that. I have a lot of friends who, have been in relationships for forever. but the friends that have gotten married and are having kids have gone back home.
Okay.
You know, so
Yeah.
I have some friends in New York where they got married and they went back home. They just had a baby, but like I'm not spending a lot of time around them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's definitely an interesting divide between, you know, like even where you live once you know, settle down.
Yeah, well, that's basically what happened to us. Like, we weren't out in New York City, but we were in the city in
Right.
Colorado, and yeah, we got married, and
You're like,
yeah, I was like,
hunker down. Here we go.
especially at the time if we were like trying to decide if we wanted kids or not, and it's like definitely not raising a baby in this one bedroom apartment that we can
Right.
only afford. Like,
Right.
there's just no way. So
Right. And I think that with millennials, that's a thing that we're thinking about more. Like, do we want to have kids? Do we want to develop our relationship and our career more before we have kids? Can we afford to have kids? So many people cannot afford to have children right now. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, it's a big deal. Like, it's a huge commitment.
Oh yeah. Well, and the thing is too, like, in a way, like, there's still that biological clock. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, yeah, I feel like times have changed a little bit. Like, you know, people are not having kids like when they're 22 anymore. Some
Right.
people might, but
God bless.
yeah, generally we're a little bit older and it's fine. But like, there still is that.
Right. I mean, you are on the clock.
Right. So, like, some people, it's like, well, shit, it's kind of now or never. Especially
Right.
if you, like we talked about earlier with birth control, if you don't know your body.
Right.
And it might take you a couple years, or you might have issues you need to deal
Right.
with.
I mean, and you don't even think about that until it's time. You're like, oh,
Exactly.
fuck. Like, I guess I should have been XYZ.
Right.
Yeah, and then you kind of have this whole thing recently that's happening a lot out where I am. Not with anyone I know, because no one has this kind of money, but freezing your eggs.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of women are like my physical therapist was like, you know, I just broke up with my wife and I want more kids eventually. And so she like froze a bunch of her eggs because she was like, I want this to be here when I'm ready and in a situation where I can do this again.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that is like become an option that people are turning to in order to prolong that. Wait until
Yeah.
they find the perfect partner. Wait until they are in a stable place in their job. And because of that, you're seeing a lot older parents.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I also think, too, like, with our generation, generally speaking, we are waiting longer, like, to get married. And part of it is financially.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is just our attitude in general, because, like, more women are going to college. More women are having careers than our
Right.
previous generations.
Right.
And
Marriage
also,
isn't as important to a
well,
lot
exactly.
of people.
Yeah,
Like,
some people just don't
like
care
we
about
live
getting
together
married.
and like it's what's a piece of paper.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that no matter, you know, I feel like the older generations try and be like, oh, how could you be living together without being married? And
Sinners.
living
Going
in sin.
to hell. Cheers.
But, like, I just, yeah.
See you there.
Yeah, no kidding. There's going to be a lot of people.
It's gonna be great. I can't wait.
A lot of married people had sex before they got married.
Oh yes, wedlock babies.
Yeah, lots of orgies going on. But I think that because of a lot of our decisions to wait longer, that we're maybe making a little bit smarter decisions, because I feel like, at least my parents' generation, like, what's the statistics, like 50% of people got divorced.
Yeah, I mean, I
feel
think
like
that's a general statistic you
And I
hear.
feel like that's partly because, you know, my mom one time she's like, well, you know, I met your dad, we were young, we dated for a couple of years, and what else was there to do? So they
Right.
got married, like
Right.
that was a natural pushed
Progression.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were still pretty young, so it's like you got to give yourself time, and I feel like we're doing that a little bit better, of getting to know somebody
And getting to know
and living
yourself.
with them, and
Like, I mean, I think
yes.
that's a huge thing, is that 22-year-old me did not know herself.
Oh.
I mean, 27
27-year-old,
like
yeah.
27-year-old me is like, hey girl, figuring it out. But like,
Yeah.
you don't know yourself. You can't expect yourself to go into a relationship with someone and just be like perfect, unless you're Brie, of course. But like, but you know, like,
No, yeah.
it takes, like, I'm a difficult person to be with. I don't know how to be with myself. Figuring out how to be alone and being yourself is hard when you're in a relationship with another person.
That is true.
And you have to, like, it's a lot to maneuver when you're trying to maintain a good relationship and a good, healthy relationship and a good, healthy psyche of your own. And it's like a whole thing that I think we're starting to put a lot more weight into. We're starting to
Yes.
acknowledge it a lot more.
I
Which is,
agree.
I think, awesome.
Yeah, a lot of people are kind of doing more of the self-discovery.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that because if you're not happy with you,
Obviously, your relationship's going to fucking
exactly,
suck.
everything's
Like,
just not going to be.
it's just
good.
what it is. Like,
Yeah.
But I think also the previous generation settled, and a lot of them are miserable.
Yeah, no, I
and
agree.
put up with miserable relationships.
Relationships,
which I'm not going to do.
Jobs too, like I've mentioned in other podcasts, like that because a lot of people are so young when they got married and had kids, they just took kind of a job that was like, oh shit, I have to take this right now.
Right.
And then they either get stuck there or they're just miserable at their job and
Right.
And I feel like a lot
you
of us
have to
don't wanna do
provide.
that.
You have to like I understand why they did that.
yeah.
But that's the same thing. It's like if you're going to have a family and going to have kids, like you have to reprioritize. You have to reshuffle. And I think a lot of millennials are like, I don't think I can do that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is awesome that they're able to acknowledge that. So
Yeah, I agree. A lot of people I know at least like want to try and maintain some kind of like happiness in their job or in their life in general. And it probably sounds a little dark, but like, you know, we don't want to end up like hating our lives because we made some poor decisions.
I don't want anyone to hate their life, so make smart decisions so that you have like mobility. If you're doing something that doesn't make you happy, I don't think you should do it. And I think like the same thing, like if you feel like you are someone that doesn't make you happy, then do that. You know, it's just like you have control of it. But I think that's a new concept.
Yes, definitely.
So
going back a little lighter now, to
let's start.
So one thing I will say that I read about a lot with like, again, us millennials being like blamed for, they have all these new like lingos now, like ghosting and breadcrumbing. Have you heard that one?
I'm not familiar with breadcrumbing.
I had to look it up because I don't know anything. And like apparently it's like leaving breadcrumbs, like a little trail for like leading people on, basically.
Got it.
But now it's called breadcrumbing.
Oh. Okay, that's a terrible branding.
I know. Or, like, those are the only two that I could think of off the top of my head. But I feel like on the news, like, every other day, they're like, oh, the new thing is some ridiculous term that millennials are doing to each other and blah, blah, blah. And it's just, I don't know who's coming up with these terms, but...
I mean, probably the next generation.
That might be true. That might be true.
I don't know. It's not me. I don't know anything either.
Yeah. But another kind of topic I think is interesting for our generation is that I definitely know more people who they don't stick to the normal monogamous relationship. Might be I'm with someone, but we are open to other people being in a relationship, or it might be that they are simply just dating multiple people at once, or I mean, you could go down a rabbit hole on this topic, I feel like, but this...
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it's not natural for people to be monogamous in general. Like, we're not meant to be with one person forever. We are mammals. But yeah, I think that is a thing that we are much more open to. We are much more open to.
Well, especially as women, like, I think we're more open about our sexuality than previously. And although you do kind of think back to the 70s, and you're like, oh, well.
Yeah, there was that, like, brief moment of, like, free love and stuff.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think in Seattle, there's, like, definitely a lot of people that I encounter just in my everyday life, and also when I was on the apps, that, you know, ethical non-monogamy is like a thing where you're in a relationship and your partner knows about it, which makes it ethical. And you have an agreement that under these circumstances with XYZ limitations, like, you can be with other people. And I think that really works for some people. I think you have to be very trusting to do that.
Yes.
But that is a thing that people are doing, and it works for them.
Do you see a lot of that, you think, like, where you are, or you just in general? Like, because I know in Denver, I knew a couple people who, like, would date a couple. Like, they'd be kind of like the third person. But I didn't personally know anyone who was, like, in a serious relationship and then had those ground rules. So I just don't really know much about that.
I think that in the last few years, a lot of people that I've surrounded myself are doing it less. I personally, in my relationship, had dated other couples, like, together. Like, my partner and I were seeing other couples together, which was really fun. But also exhausting. Dating in general is horrible. It's really difficult. I don't know how people are in polyamorous relationships. Like, I know people are in polyamorous relationships, and they have multiple partners. And I was on the apps, and, like, some, like, throuple was looking for, like, a fourth, which seemed, like, complicated to me. So I kind of, like, I reached out to them and then, like, kind of, like, heard what they were looking for and was like, okay, well, that's interesting. I'm never texting you back.
And was it, like, more, like, sexually, or was it everything involved? Because, like you said, I feel like anything more than just, like, oh, we want to hook up with another person, like, oh, that sounds exhausting and, like, emotionally, like,
I mean, I think that's what
draining.
people are doing. I think polyamorous people are dating lots of different people, and they have multiple partners, and I personally couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I personally, like, in my life have slept with, like, a lot of my friends. Like, I personally, like, if I'm going to have a open-ish relationship, which I did have, I mean, there was a lot of friends that were, like, invited in. And I think that for me feels normal, and I'm very close to my friends, and I trust my friends, and, like, that never made it awkward.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say, like...
Yeah, and, like, I never really... I mean...
I guess if everyone involved is...
Hey, if you're respectful and
yeah.
honest, and, you know, you have to have a lot of open communication. But yeah, I have a lot of friends that, like, that was, like, a really fun thing we did for a little while together, and we're still friends, and we occasionally hint at it, that it happened, and it's kind of like a funny thing, like, I know that about you. Like,
remember that?
Yeah, I you know, like, talking about, like, their new partners, and, like, you're like, yeah, that is a really difficult thing about you. But yeah, I think that we're much more open to, you know, not being nailed down to just monogamy, which I think is a very open-minded thing. And I think when you choose to be monogamous after having been like that, you're actually choosing it.
Right.
As opposed to, like, being you know, this
forced.
whole, like, I, like, have a problem with the whole, like, bachelorette party, because it's like, this is the last thing. And it's
agree.
like, no, it's not. Like, like, if you choose it to be that, then, like, okay, good luck with that. But, like, that's not the case. Like, that's not a thing.
I agree with that whole... Like, I had a bachelorette party, but it wasn't like... So far, I've been to a handful of bachelorette parties. It's just the girls going and dancing. It's not, like, strippers and crazy, ridiculous things happening. Because I feel like there are still people who are that way. Like,
which, for me, if my partner was doing that, I'd be like, fine, have a good time. But I don't care. But, like, also you can do this, like, next month.
Right.
Like, I don't care.
It's almost like there's this weird pressure, like,
you're married.
God,
you're married. Better lock it down. Get it out now, because you're going to be
silly.
And it's just dumb. And I think that our generation is much better at acknowledging that, which is awesome.
Yes, like, so,
there's good on them.
Yeah, because you hear stories about, like, oh, you know, the husband-to-be slept with one of the... And it's just like, what? Like, if you're acting that way now, like, I can't imagine it gets better from there.
Right, and I think also in those situations, and this is just all speculation, but I think a lot of people think that marriage is going to fix their relationship problems.
True, kind of like having a kid sometimes.
Definitely like having a kid sometimes. Or adopting a dog, or whatever it is that you do, that you can, like, you know, say, like, oh, we're going to stay together for this reason. But yeah, I think that that's a thing that happens too, where it's just like people decide that they're going to get married because it's going to be a better commitment. Like, you're going to be able to trust them more, and it's just, like, not the way the world works.
No, and I think that there will always be people like that in the world, but I think like our generation has gotten better with that and has, like,
I hope so. I
mean,
that shit's crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, there will always be crazy people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, always. That's in general. I think all the world's problems will never truly go away.
Everyone has bad coping mechanisms, and they're going to do things that they think is right for them.
Yes.
Millennials, go to therapy. Everyone should go to therapy. Figure that shit out before you marry someone.
Well, yeah, if you got props anywain, then...
Just in general, everyone should go to therapy. Just like a light dusting of therapy for everyone.
Just a
little therapy. Just everyone do some self-reflection. Air it out a little bit.
Or if you're like me and you hate talking about your feelings, which you probably should fix, and like I probably should fix, but I don't.
Self-reflection will happen after the baby.
Just do some meditating at least. It's helped me a lot.
Yeah, I think just in general, just kind of, tune in every once in a while to what's happening in there.
Yes,
it'll save your relationships.
Exactly, and that's what we're gonna leave you with today,
everybody.
Yes. A crop dusting of therapy or introspectiveness will go a long way. And also learn how to do a chokehold in case you're in an Uber and someone's trying to, kidnap you.
Right.
Save a life. Save your life.
Save your life.